Hey guys, so it's been about 2 years since I started converting this old horse barn into this workshop. So I thought, let's take a quick look back and see how we got here. Okay, so once I got the whole barn all closed in, the next big thing is to get some storage space, and that's why I built this mega shelf. Up against the wall here, it's made out of pressure treated 2x4s and pressure treated plywood. Basically, I had them rip the plywood down at Lowe's, so I didn't have to do a whole lot of cutting once I got in here. I guess I did some. But yeah, pretty simple construction, and they're 8 feet tall with another 3 feet on top of that. So they just hold a ton of stuff. And you can really get organized when you get everything up out of the way. So that was a critical step in just getting some storage space. So the next thing I did is built these implement carts for my tiller and my grapple. So the carts are just made out of 2x4s, pressure treated, and got some nice wheels on there. Pocket hold them together, and they hold these implements nicely, and they store right in the mega shelf out of the way. And that keeps them out of the weather inside, but yet I can roll them out, hook them up to the tractor in just a few minutes, and then store them back when I'm done. Okay, so the next thing I did was my heavy duty workbench. So I used 2x10 yellow pine. It's really strong, it's pretty flat and straight, makes a nice place to work. I built it on pressure treated 2x4s, and it's got a nice big shelf under there for storage. Went together pretty easily, pretty easy to build, and makes for a really nice strong place to work. Got my heavy duty vise mounted on here, the Wilton. And I've got a grinder on there now, but I'm going to take that off. I'm taking all those nuts and bolts off. I like a nice, big, clean place to work. So I'm going to have this completely cleaned off. We'll do some French cleats on the back and have all the tools you need right at arm's length. Okay, so next up is the wood storage area. So I built this storage unit in the same type of method that I used for the mega shelf and the benches. It's built with the 2x4 construction. This is reinforced quite a bit because there's a lot of weight on here. It needs to be a little stronger, so we're not just hanging on hardware. There are studs directly under and supporting, so it can hold a lot more weight. So recently I've added this section up here for short stock because I'm building a lot of things where I need to come in here and get little types of pieces of this and that and build out whatever I happen to be working on. I also added this plywood storage area, put some dividers in here, and makes it real easy to store a lot of stuff and be able to see what you got and be able to pull it out, have access to it really easily. And I've also keep some plywood right here, the stuff that I'm currently working with for projects. I just keep it right there. It's pretty handy. Now the stuff here, this long 8-footers, they pull right out of here and go right over to the chop saw. Okay, so next up is the miter station. So I built this whole section Similar construction, 2x4 framing, 2 3/4 inch sheets of plywood sandwiched together to make the top. It's pretty flat, pretty straight, makes a nice place to work. I've set down the saw a little bit so that the top of it is flush with the workbench on both sides. On the left I got 9 feet to work with and plenty of room on the right. I built a box for dust collection, and we'll talk about that a little more later. I like to keep everything I need right here. So when I come up, I got my tape measure, pencils, ear protection. I can make my cuts and have everything right there. Don't gotta walk all over the shop to find what I need. I use this saw all the time. It's my most used piece of equipment in the shop, I would say. I like that it feels a little safer than the table saw. And I try and use this whenever possible. Next up is my Craftsman Toolbox. Got this big toolbox, put it together and put all my stuff in there, like screwdrivers, wrenches, socket sets. It's got all the drill bits, like tons of stuff. And this was the center of the shop, the heart of the shop for about a year, until I finally built these French cleats, and now the things are kind of shifting more over to that side of the shop. Okay, so at this point I'm about a year into the project, and it's time to start looking at some bigger machines like this jet band saw and the drill press, dust collection, stuff like that. And at the time I'm thinking, man, this is expensive stuff. It's kind of overkill for, you know, weekend warrior, DIYer type guy like me, right? Do I really want to spend this kind of money and have this stuff sitting here? Well, now that I've, you know, come as far as I have with the shop, I don't look at it that way at all anymore. So now I think, I wouldn't say it's over or underkill. I'd say it's like just right, actually. And I'm so glad I got this stuff. And it's not like I use this bandsaw every day, right? I don't use it that much. But when I need it, man, it's great to have this thing available. Just walk up and make your cuts, you know, scroll, whatever you got to do. It's all connected to dust collection, ready to go. Fire it up. Make your cut and go. Same thing with a drill press, man. This thing was like $1,500. I might have got it on sale for $1,000 or $1,200, something like that. And at the time, it seemed like too much, but now that I use it all the time, and I'm super happy with it. And, it's just a big difference between, you know, having 80% of what you need or having everything you need to complete your projects. So yeah, I'm really glad that I went ahead and invested in some of these things that seemed like a stretch at the time. All right, so that brings us to the table saw. Now I've got this DeWalt job site table saw. For me, table saws kind of fall into 3 categories. This might be true of other tools as well, but you got the cheap junk, and then you got the mid-grade stuff like this, and then you have your woodworker type, you know, cabinet saws that are high-end, right? So it just depends on what you're doing. If I were a woodworker, I would get a cabinet saw. But for me, this works great. It works better than I thought, actually. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm using it more as I get more comfortable with it. I consider it a dangerous machine, probably the most dangerous thing I have in here. So I'm pretty careful when I'm using it. I use it more now that I got this sled. So I built this sled. I've got videos on all this stuff, I'll link them. But for cross cuts, this really adds a lot of confidence and makes it pretty easy to make those types of cuts. All right guys, that brings us to the joiner and the planer. Now, if I thought it was a stretch to get the bandsaw and the drill press, I never imagined that I would have these 2 machines. This is like going to the moon. Total game changer. So with these 2, I can bring in rough cut lumber, any kind of rough cut lumber, join it, edge it, plane it to any thickness. I mean, you can bring in rough cut lumber one end, the shop, and build anything you can imagine. Totally changes what we can do here. Now I've got this set up with its own dust collection, so I've got a rigid shop vac under there, and both machines are connected with blast gates, so joiner, planer. They both run into the Cyclone garbage can setup. You generate a ton of chips here and it all gets separated there. Doesn't end up in the shop vac. You definitely don't want to use a 5-gallon bucket on machines like this. You'd just be emptying it every time you take down a few boards. So, but yeah, total game changer. I'm so happy I got these, and takes the shop to a whole new level. All right, so while we're on the subject of dust collection, let's take a look at the main system that I installed. And I've got videos on this, I can link them below, but I've got connections all around here for the different machines. Here's the miter station. I've got a station up here that I use for the pocket hole jig a lot, use it for cleaning up whatever on this desktop. Got one for the floor sweep. Got connections for the bandsaw and all these blast gates, drill press, and it all runs back into my rigid, just regular old shop vac. I've got one of these dust deputies on 2 5-gallon buckets, and these machines don't generate a ton of dust, so I end up emptying this about once a week. Now this works great for me, obviously, if you're a woodworker and this is your job, then you're going to have up to the next professional level. But for what I'm doing, this has worked great. No problem at all. I just come over here, and the nice thing is I got it on a remote. Come up here, make your cut, turn it off. And it's in the other room, so it's not too loud. Yeah. So poor man's dust collection. Works great for the DIYer. Okay, that brings me to compressed air. I've got this Fortress 27-gallon, 200 psi, 5.1 cubic feet per minute, it's 1.6 horsepower system I got from Harbor Freight. I built this dryer out of copper, added some pressure gauges and filters, regulators. I can drop right off of the system here. Got a hose handy there. You can use it in this room, which I rarely do. But it also runs out through the shop to some different places. And so I've got separate regulators out here with hoses ready to go. This I use a ton for like brad nailing. I just grab that, come right over to my bench, and put stuff together here. If I'm working on my assembly table, then I can come over here and do the pull down. All right, I also recently put together this assembly table, 4 by 8 feet, torsion box. Put some extra effort into building this. It is very strong, very heavy, but makes a perfect place for putting stuff together. Here's a project I'm working on right now. Uh-oh, what is this, guys? Cat's out of the bag now. Now you know what I'm working on. What is that? If you know what that is, put it in the comments. Well, it's kind of obvious, isn't it? But yeah, love the assembly table. Really good addition to the shop for sure. So before I wrap up the video, I want to say a word about organization. So I think good organization is the key to a successful shop. And I'm not talking about just nuts and bolts and nails and stuff like this, but I'm talking about systems, fully functional, operational systems that are in the right place, tools and things, where you need them, when you need them, at arm's length, so you can just grab what you need and get your work done, right? You don't want to be looking all over the shop for that tool you left somewhere, and then you go to hook up your air and the compressor's not working. Broken stuff just takes away all your productivity. So I've got this shop pretty organized. I got a little ways to go yet, but so far the projects that I'm doing, things are going smoothly and efficiently, and it's kind of a joy to work in here now. I'm really liking it. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.